Hey, thanks for joining the Acquirable Podcast. We're here at the ACG Middle Market A&D
Conference,
Conference,
that's right.
which we're excited about.
We're so excited about it.
And James, thanks for spending time with us. We got a chance to connect yesterday. And I find your story and your journey very interesting. I think folks that are watching will as well. You were with PE for a long time. And some of the most significant things you learned through that process is focus, as you would do roll-ups and kind of how do we get this business focused and all these roll-up companies focused, but also the power of disruption, because kind of the old saying, what got you here is not going to get you there. And so talk to us a little bit just about your experience in both the PE world and now in this very disruptive market that you're in.
Yes. Well, thank you for the question. When I worked with PE, I was the kind of a CXO that would come in and work special situations. So it could be the business is not performing where it needs to be. It may the management team may be sideways with the board. It could be they're trying to get into a new market, or we want to get out of a certain space. And they often bring in discreet gray-haired guys to do that. And so obviously something I'm very well qualified for. And so it was great. And I lived in took me a number of places. I've probably done 40 acquisitions on behalf of PE. I've done a lot of work out of the Pac Rim, a number of our acquisitions in Europe. Worked in primarily tech and tech-enabled services. A few years ago, I moved back to Colorado to take care of aging parents. And when I did, Bye Aerospace, one of the gentlemen I've known for a long time, was on the board and asked me to come in and take a look at this. And aerospace had become a huge part of Colorado economy. And so it was a really interesting opportunity to me. You asked, what did we learn? First of all, I think you have to learn how to learn, right? To go into a situation, I think the hardest thing for a lot of execs is to be good listeners. And, what's going on? Who are the people who know how do you find out where True North is and things like that? And then ultimately, like in our case, we're always constantly raising money to get to that next step. And on our business, which we're very excited about, it's very aspirational. But we have to make sure that we have a conversation that potential investors respect, and they want to stay part of that conversation, and they want to move it along.
CXO, that was the term you used. So you're coming into a company, you're taking whatever title it is that you need to be effective.
Yes.
In whatever restructuring or integration is happening. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. Yeah.
And so listening, you talked about listening. So you've done this before. You said 40 times, 40 acquisitions. I assume you've come in each of those and just kind of listened what needs to be done here. Talk about the humility that's needed in those situations.
Well, I would say one of the reasons this is addicting for me is I get to meet so many great people doing different things, and I learn from them, right? And you can't learn if you're not listening. And so, yeah, it has been, for instance, I've, for one of the largest marketing concerns in the world, I did a turnaround, 2,000 employees for them. I did for a very large private equity group out of France. I was part of the team that rolled up 11 plants in 9 countries doing manufacturing for auto parts. So you meet a tremendous amount of people, and you realize there's many ways to do things, but the power of the team, right? So when the team is standing up and they all know where they're going and everything else, that's when it's really fun to be part of that.
So talk to us a little bit about if as an entrepreneur and you're thinking about selling your company, and how do they need to begin to prepare to be rolled up, sold, and be introduced to a James Dunn that's going to come in and help them go to the next level?
It wasn't always a pleasant thing, but I think there's a lot of different aspects to that. So on an acquisition side, and for people who are preparing to exit, it's really important that you find good advisors, that you start the process early, that you understand what the market is, And it takes a long time to do that successfully and feel like you're in control. And one of the things that's kind of ugly is when people don't feel like they're in control, or it's being forced on them, especially when you have ownership that's majority ownership and it's not yours, and that a lot of that can be avoided by constructive engagement.
And how would you define constructive engagement? Because I think that's a phrase that would, like, if I'm listening to this podcast, I'm writing that down and going, okay, I heard that phrase.
Give
I need
them
to
something
understand
to
what
write
that
under
means.
it.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Constructive engagement is, first of all, organizations need leadership, and they need, from the top down, all sorts of following of the rules and whatnot that is valuable to organizations. But constructive engagement is often making sure that everybody in the room has a voice, and you create an environment where they want to talk, and it's amazing what you learn. Some of these, situations I've been able to go into, and we create that right environment. It's some of the people that have been always the quietest, they're so thoughtful and where things are and where they're going, and if you empower them, you help find a solution that's that recognizes a lot of all the people in the room.
Wow.
Yesterday when we were listening to the panel and several of the special forces were on stage talking, and I may get this wrong a little bit, but they said something like there's no rank in the debrief room.
That's right.
Yeah.
No rank in the
Good
debrief
point.
room. It was an amazing discussion they had about that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about disruption and transition to a little bit about what you're doing now. I mean, you guys saw and I think this is important as entrepreneurs think about their business. If you're going to continue to advance your business, you've got to be able to see the gaps and opportunities in the market and be ready to disrupt it. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing.
So Bye Aerospace, BYE, Aerospace was an engineering company that got involved with developing the first electric conventional aircraft, and very smart people, and through the period of time that they were putting this together and everything else, it became really important that they had to raise a lot of money to take it. They had a number of great engineers involved, but then they kind of hit a plateau, and especially during the COVID era where it's like, where are we really going? And so it was really important to come back and say, okay, what is the market we're trying to disrupt, which is the aviation training marketplace? Why is that important? And by the way, we didn't always tell the story succinctly, but the aviation training marketplace is falling behind in training enough pilots by tens of thousands on a global scale.
Wow.
And why is that? The number, 70% of candidates drop out because of the cost of training, right? And why is the cost so high? The average age of an aircraft in training in the United States is 45 years old. 45 years old, right? So how do you disrupt that? There's a lot of ways, but the most important thing electric does for that is, if you can meet the mission, is the average operating cost, including MRO plus gas, is $160 an hour in the United States. With electric, we can do it for $35 an hour. And so that for a number of aviation training schools who work their tails off to have a very small EBITDA and keep those students in there and everything else, they work really hard to do that. And obviously, if we can reduce that cost significantly, that's a big thing. On top of it, it's some of the newest technology that's come out in years for that marketplace. So the FAA is going to require we're safer from an anti-spin capability. But if we were in a cockpit, this is about the noise we'd hear. So it's safer from the noise.
Interesting.
At 500 feet, it's deemed imperceptible. There's a number of airports that the neighbors are all just up in arms because of all the noise that's out there. We solved that problem. No carbon, no lead, very low noise, but it's that cost that's disrupted. As a result, we have over 1,000 planes in back order.
Wow.
So that's the path we're on. How quickly can we raise? the money to exercise that. The other thing I think is really important is when I came in, I came in with a gentleman by the name of Rod Zastro, and Rod was an F-15 pilot, worked his way all the way up through squadron leadership, and retired after a stint at the Pentagon. And then he went to work for a company called Spartan, which was private equity backed, and built the largest aviation training facility in the Middle East. So I can say we know the market we're trying to disrupt, and we have leadership from that marketplace. And that it helps with the risk for potential investors.
So you've got a backlog that's 1,000 planes strong. Talk to us about what the production capability is today, and then what you're moving towards, building towards, and raising capital towards.
Yeah. So this is all a great subject. So that I've learned, because this is not where I came from. And so the most important part of where we're at today is we're actually building our very first plane to do our first flight at the end of Q1.
Wow.
So
Congratulations, James.
Yeah, well, thanks. We have a whole team that I'm proud to be part of. And we have chosen, as opposed to building all sorts of infrastructure, that we're working with best-of-breed prototype carbon fiber structure build guys, where we are working with as much commercial off the shelf. We have very strategic vendors we're really excited about. So, for instance, Safran, a big engine supplier out of France, has designed their engine just for us, and they have YASA certification, which is the European counterpart to the FAA. So that reduces our risks, and it also expands our network of the people we can talk to. And Siemens has, we do 100% of our design in Siemens, and they've contributed a ton to help us be successful. And they are the premium, CAD, CAM, PLM software in the world. And so they're there to mentor us and help us. So it isn't by no means a small effort.
Let me ask you, for folks that are watching this podcast and they're considering, man, I need to raise to do the next disruptive thing in my business, get to the next level. Give them some advice on raising money and what you've learned through this experience and other expeririences on doing that.
So, first of all, stand up and go beat your head on a wall for it's a very tough, a tough thing to do. And some people, again, it's so important to work with people who've been there before. And so there's just many different stages of raising money. A lot of the money I've been involved with, it would be lower middle market. And so I am working a lot with private equity, and they have their own focus. You can go out to any of their websites. They're going to tell you, here's what I'm looking for in a thesis. Here is how I operate. It doesn't mean they won't bend the rules a little bit, but they need to understand, why I need to do it for you.
Right.
And so, the most important thing is creating that dialogue and then leaning into it. But you have to have a lot of conversation.
I bet. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That stick-to-itiveness just to get through it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, James, we're excited about what you're doing. We appreciate the time you're spending with us. Just what's this conference meant to you? Tell us a little bit about just being here, what the value of this conference.
Yeah, so it actually has been fun. I was just telling Rod, who didn't come out with me, that he should have been here because it's a great group of people. I'm out of ACG, out of Colorado. So when I moved back to Colorado a few years ago, I joined ACG to reconnect with that business community. And aerospace is a huge part of our Colorado economy. It's the number one driver of the Colorado economy now, where it used to always be mining or tourism.
And see, I thought it was the CU Buffs.
Yeah, well.
Common misconception.
Yeah, a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I was at one of the conferences there, and I said, well, we ought to be doing something about, with aerospace, because the number of equity guys coming here to look at us is a big number. And so somehow that transformed to, can you be part of the steering committee here as they try to take the LA and make it national. So this is the very first one from them to approach that mission, and I think they've done a great job. There's a nice collection of people. It'll get bigger and stronger over time.
It's great.
But I've really enjoyed meeting tons of people, and And there's so many. What is aerospace and defense, right? So we're a small segment in aviation, but it's a massively big market. It's amazing what's going on there.
That's cool. Well, again, James, thanks for taking time and just sharing your learnings, share about what you're doing to be disruptive, what you're getting out of this conference. We appreciate you being here, and thanks for taking time, my friend.
It's a pleasure
Jim.
meeting both of you.
Thanks,
you.
James.
Yeah.